Hi, I'm Sam Tribble with Strength Project, and today I've been invited here at Strength Camp to answer some of your questions about gymnastics. I'm a former elite gymnast and been training athletes for about the last 30 years, and so very excited to be here to answer some of your questions. So here we go. So here's our first question. Yo Elliott, have you ever thought about men's gymnastics? They have that athletic look, that great physique, they have that V back shape, and they're very strong too. Can you do some videos about men's gymnastics? So here's the answer to that question. You have to remember that whatever athletic endeavor that you pursue is going to dictate the type of physique that you have ultimately. So if you want that gymnastics type look, it is necessary for you to do some gymnastics type exercises, and that would be some body weight training. So if you're into lifting weights and you're thinking, well, I want to have a physique like a gymnast, then you're going to need to incorporate and understand those types of movements and then transfer that into the gym and sort of mimic those types of exercises. So we're going to give you a brief example of that. So a staple exercise in gymnastics is the handstand dip. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you now and then take you into the weight area or show you with weights how that correlates to the right muscles that you want to develop. So body alignment is very important in order to be able to do that. And you'll see on the way up I made a few corrections so that I wouldn't fall over. So I'm starting to use the small muscle groups in conjunction with the large ones to develop that type of balance. But that, again, is going to dictate the type of muscles that are created. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to incorporate weights to help develop my strength for that handstand dip. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it from a stand. And notice that when I do my handstand dip, I'm going to really mimic that handstand push-up. So this is similar to the position I would start at. And as I push my weights up, I'm going to make sure my wrists are turned out. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to flatten my back and find that same position that I would find in my handstand. So that's really important. And I'm going to keep my weights not too heavy so I can be very position oriented. And I'm going to do it from a stand because that's a much different feeling and type of control and contraction than if I were to sit down. But if I really understand the position and I feel how moving the weights creates some counterbalance in my body and what I have to stabilize, then I can go ahead and increase my weights and then maybe do it from a seated position so I can target my shoulders a little bit more. But again, it should be just like that handstand dip. If I just start doing things like this, my shoulders will get stronger, and that's a good exercise. But it's not going to be specific to developing the type of strength you need for a handstand dip, which you may not even care whether you have a handstand dip. But if you're trying to develop the type of physique that a gymnast would have, it's important that you do the type of exercises that are going to load the muscles the same way. So you have to understand the right positions, and the only really way to do that is by actually trying to do a gymnastics type exercise or a body weight counterbalance exercise. Now another very prominent exercise you're going to find that gymnasts do are lower levers, because you have to have a nice tight an isometric position. It involves primarily your core and your lats. So those are very important areas to develop, and so what we do is we cut right to the chase. We use an exercise that is a body weight training exercise, but it also targets those areas that you're specifically in question about. The most common error people will make when trying to do this exercise is they'll do it with bent arms. So I would encourage you to try to find a place where you can do straight arms, and then with your elbows straight, lower down as far as possible, back up, by keeping the elbows straight, it really throws the load into your back. We can alternate our exercise once it's stronger. So once you understand that position, an exercise you can do in the weight room along with that directly correlates is taking your weight. Again, I'm going to work with my elbows locked out, nice and straight. Get as much of a full range of motion as possible and back up. And you notice when I do this, I kind of warm into the exercise and start to increase my range of motion as I get warmed up with the load that I've chosen. But because I have done the exercise from a body balance standpoint, I know what muscles I'm trying to engage when I lift this, so I'm very specific about how I lift it. Okay, so now what I've done is I've increased the weight, and because I have, I'll use some sort of a counterbalance over here, because really the weight that I have over here is now being leveraged with my lower body. So if you're comfortable with gymnastics or body weight training exercise, really the load that I have over here is being equal to my body weight, which is what you were seeing when I was lowering up and down. So in theory, if I'm comfortable moving a percentage of my body weight, then that means I should be comfortable moving a percentage of my body weight with the weights. So we're going to do that for you. Now notice I try to work into a full range of motion as much as possible, because again, when gymnasts are working, the quick dynamic exercises sometimes move through a very small portion of the muscle contraction, but then for something like a landing where they're really absorbing thousands of pounds of pressure, you're going to see a full range of motion sometimes that they're going to move that energy through. So it's important to try to work through large range of motion. So building the gymnastics physique is about having control and balance incorporated into your workout. And we talked about position and balance, and we also talked about range of movement. You want to have a very large range of movement that you have balance in. So those are the two things you want to incorporate. And then the other thing to keep in mind is it's also functional movement. So the gymnast isn't really saying, wow, my biceps look small, so I want to work on that area. It's not really about how you look so much as are you functional with what you have and making that efficient. So right now we're going to go to our legs and thinking about functional movement for our legs. So what I'm going to do is a simple sit back, call it a candlestick, and roll and stand up. So right now I'm taking my legs through a full range of movement. Okay? So the idea behind this is to be able to have a full range of movement with only using one leg. Okay? So now we've increased our body weight load onto one leg, and we're trying to make efficiency with one leg through that full range of motion. Now when you get strong, you'll be able to you won't have to coordinate rolling or extra momentum into it. So the idea is to be able to use one leg and go all the way down and back up in a full range of motion. So when you can do that on each leg, you know that using your own body weight, you're starting to incorporate a full range of motion, and then you can add more dynamics to that. So in other words, you can squat down, and then at the top of that squat, go to some sort of a jump. Or if you're in the weight room, with that one leg, you can start to put some dumbbells in your hand and start to increase that load. But see, what you've done is you've created functional movement, which is much different than saying, I want to have gymnast-type quads, but then getting in a chair and start to do your leg presses. That's a different exercise. It's going to affect and impact your body differently. So I hope some of that helps and answers your questions about building a gymnastics physique. I hope you enjoyed your tips today. I want to thank Elliott for having us here on his channel, Strength Camp. I'm Sam Tribble with Strength Project. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.